Hello, and welcome to Religion and Life. I am your host, Ozzie. The food we consume sustains us physically, but food and foodways are also multidimensional, transmitting meaning and communicating identities of families and communities. Food can be a way toward understanding cultures, and food often plays an important role in religious rituals and practices. Last week, I dined on Middle Eastern cuisine at our local farm cafe, and my guest today knows a lot about Middle Eastern and Mediterranean food and is here to help us understand some of the ways food plays in maintaining cultural, community, and religious identity. Welcome, Marwa.
Thanks for having me.
I hope I got your name close, Marwa Farid.
Marwa Farid.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You're one of our wonderful students here at Appalachian State University.
Yes, I am a senior, graduating in May, actually, and I'm majoring in psychology, and I've minored in communication and photography.
Yeah, and you're taking Arabic as well?
Yeah, I took Arabic, and I actually was a teaching assistant for Beginner Arabic 1 with Dr. Sadwa.
Okay, and you're most recently from Raleigh, North Carolina, but you grew up in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And until what age?
Basically until 10 years old, and I also moved to Saudi Arabia with my parents for about 6 years, but we always went back to Egypt during the holidays.
Yeah, and you were telling me earlier that you haven't been back to Egypt for about 5 years now. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So you're looking forward to returning home
Exactly.
soon, and I'm excited for you. I'm glad you're going to be able to do that.
Me too.
And you said religiously, and I didn't realize this, that Egypt is a kind of mixture of Muslim and Christian traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little more about that?
So about 90% of Egyptians are Muslim, and 10% are Coptic Christian. Actually, the majority, in the past, all of Egypt was Coptic until the Arabs conquered Egypt, and everyone either converted or stayed Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So the rituals are kind of a mixture of past culture and religion combined together.
Yeah.
So there's a huge diversity in the ritual that we share in the community.
Yeah, and you grew up in the Muslim tradition.
Correct.
But you were saying that when you celebrate Ramadan, that some of the folks in the Coptic Christian community also observe the fast.
Correct.
I find that to be amazing. And I want to come back and talk about Ramadan in particular in a little bit.
Yeah, it's like when people with different religions here celebrate Christmas. I also celebrate Christmas. It's here and in Egypt,
right,
with my Coptic Christian friends.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with the other way around, where they respect that most of the people are fasting, and so they don't really eat in front of them out of respect. But they also share the celebrations when it comes to Ramadan and Eid.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, so I have a picture of some food here. Actually, last week when I ate at the farm cafe, they were highlighting Middle Eastern and Mediterranean cuisine. So I took a picture of my plate because I was so impressed. It was so good. The two things I think that we were talking about earlier here was falafel and tabbouleh. Tell me about falafel.
So there are actually two ways of doing falafel. The Mediterranean side of Egypt on the coast does it like the rest of the world. And we also have another form we call tamia. But the falafel are the best thing I could think about when you're just on the go or in the morning. I remember when I would visit my grandmother and my mom would go out to get breakfast in the morning, I would love to come with her and just to smell the falafel while it's being fried is one of the best memories of my childhood, actually.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so it's chickpeas that are ground up with some spices. I think I have another picture of just falafel here, so you can kind of see the interior. It makes you hungry to look at it, doesn't it? So there's spices in there, and then deep fried.
You can definitely add those if you would like.
Yeah. Okay, so it's one of my favorite foods. This doesn't necessarily have religious connection to Islam, but it's part of the cultural traditions of Egypt and the Mediterranean world. Is that?
It's definitely part of the breakfast culture, majorly because it's almost everywhere, and it is so filling, and it gives you the energy you need to start your day as well. And I wanted to ask, was that arugula next to it?
It was on the previous picture. Yeah, is that something that you eat?
Very popular in Egypt. It's my favorite. I didn't know what it was called in English for the longest time.
Right.
And I thought they didn't exist here.
No, we know arugula. Yeah, I love arugula.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So the next picture here is the beets. We're talking about something. This is not necessarily part of Egyptian cuisine, but I think it's part of Mediterranean food. And then after that, I think there's another picture of tabbouleh. And tell me about tabbouleh.
It's definitely from the Levant. It is also one of those things one of the foods that you don't think would taste like it would just because it's a salad. But it is definitely, I could definitely just eat the bula on its own, just because it's not only filling, but also tastes like you are, it tastes and makes you feel like you are having a very sophisticated meal while tasting good.
Yeah,
it's not just vegetables or.
It's light and lots of vegetables and grains, and it is a sophisticated meal. So a lot of times in religions, Islam and others, in Christianity, there are feasts and there are fasts, and the feasts bring family and community together, and again, a lot surrounding Ramadan. And there are sometimes regulations about how food is to be prepared and what food is acceptable to eat and other foods that may be prohibited. So halal, is that correct? Did I say that properly? That's the word that means lawful or permitted, and that describes foods that are lawful to be eaten. Can you tell me a little bit about halal food? And it also covers preparation, I think, of food.
Definitely. You can't eat pork, but you also can't eat other like animals. I'm not specifically sure what kind of animals or what is the specific rule for them, but it is animals like cats or dogs that it's just like prohibited to eat.
Right.
Besides that, I feel like everything else is acceptable to eat. Besides drinking alcohol, and most of the Islamic denominations are not permitted. Yeah.
So no pork, no alcohol, right? And there are certain restrictions about how. I think there are certain restrictions about how the meat is to be slaughtered and prepared.
Yeah,
right.
You have to say the prayer, and you have to make sure that the sharp object you're using is actually sharp, so you don't torture the animal while you're performing the slaughtering. Yeah.
Right. So the alcohol and the pork are considered, is it haram?
Mm-hmm.
And that's off limits completely. Okay. And that's pretty universal in Islam, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the most intriguing aspects of Islam are the so-called 5 pillars of Islam, and one of those pillars is observing a fast during the month of Ramadan. You mentioned that earlier a little bit. Tell me kind of the restrictions and the rules for observing a fast during the month of Ramadan. And maybe you should start by telling us what Ramadan is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ramadan usually starts according to so Ramadan is one of the lunar months in the Islamic calendars. So it is really just based on the cycles of the moon. A certain ministry observes the moon when it becomes a certain crescent. It announces to the public that that Ramadan will start tomorrow or in the couple days. And the same thing happens with the Eid as well, where they also observe the moon. And it is really just a month. Besides doing it to have compassion for others who might not have the ability to, have more than one meal during the day, or self-discipline, it's really just a cleanse of the soul, in my opinion, at least. Because I feel like, as someone who have fasted before, I feel like for many months during that time, you're really open to have those reflections and even, I would say, meditations with yourself, and it will allow you to grow, not just in the relationship between you and God, but also in the relationship between you and the people who surround you as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Kind of articulated two aspects of Ramadan. One which I'd never really thought of, but by partaking of limited food, you're creating a connection with people who may be poor and not be able to afford adequate food. And that kind of reinforces one of the other pillars of Islam, the giving of alms and charity.
Zakah, yeah.
But then the other is there's a spiritual purpose. So and maybe we should say that the fast is from dawn before the first prayers until sunset.
Correct.
So after the last prayer. So it's the entire day.
Yes. So it's there are 5 daily prayers, and you start fasting after the call for the Fajr prayer.
That's the one at dawn.
Yes, correct. And then you keep fasting to Dhuhr, Asr, and then when they call for the Maghrib prayer around sunset, that's when you are allowed to break your fast until the next dawn. Yeah.
So during the day, the time I guess you normally would have spent preparing food and eating food and cleaning up, you're meditating and you're focusing on spiritual concerns. And that was part of what you were saying, that there's a kind of openness during the fast.
Definitely everyone to its own devices. But a lot of people spend that time connecting back to their spirituality. Personally, I like to meditate and have those reflections between myself. And some people even explain it as some form of ecstasy in their spirituality, where they feel like they are more connected to their spiritual self and their journey in life,
Right.
to be specific.
That's good. Yeah, so you're a student here at Appalachian. There's a small Muslim community here, but not a large one. Did you find it difficult to observe the fast during Ramadan?
I mean, it is definitely, in my opinion, difficult, just because the atmosphere is not the same.
Right.
You're not reminded that, it is a holy month, because, but it helps when you do it for yourself, as I realized that, like, I'm the adult now, and I'm the one who needs to put the decorations, play the music, or play the Quran, and even cook the food itself. And so it's definitely not just because it's not a holiday that is very much celebrated, but it's also because it is a time in my life where I am the adult now.
Right.
And it's there are, I'm not gonna lie, there are rituals that very much is missed if I was back in Egypt.
Sure, you'd be around family, you'd be around friends, you'd be around a community, and that's really what food does. Really, a lot of the time is bring those communities together and connects you to your culture and your identity, right? And that's part of what was missing. Well, so before the fast, however, there's a pre-fast meal. I think it's called suhoor, something close to that. And tell me a little bit about if you were in Egypt and you were preparing for your fast, what might you eat before the fast begins?
Well, my family likes to eat simple, light food. Some people like to have their heavy course meal during that time to prepare. But we definitely try to drink a lot of things that would hydrate us, besides water. We have a couple of different drinks, actually. There's Sobia, Tamr Hindi, Amaridin, mango, even
fruit juices.
even sugarcane juice is very popular in Egypt. You should try it one day.
I'll try. I hope to.
And the food itself is and we also drink those during iftar as well. But the food is simple, usually eggs, beans, falafel, feta cheese, salads, just very simple stuff like that.
Yeah. But well balanced to get you through the day, I guess. So then at the end of the day, at sundown, with the last call to prayer, you have iftar, which is breaking the fast, right?
Sure.
So how would that progress? How would you break your fast at the end of the day during Ramadan?
So after you've prepared your food with your family, you sit down. Usually it is with your extended family, and you would start simple. At least my family starts simple, with water, of course, and then dates. Sometimes we like to put the dates in milk.
Tell me about the dates, because that's always fascinated me. When I've celebrated iftar with the community here, I'm all for dates, but I really don't know why. Why dates? Do you know?
It is sunnah. So sunnah, it is Sunnah means it's one of the things that the Prophet Muhammad used to do,
Okay.
which is basically like you try to come close to his behaviors, and it is one of the foods that is high in protein, and so you're fueling yourself by those dates.
So the Prophet Muhammad liked dates, or his tradition that he would eat dates. So that's you're not only fueling your body, but there's a symbolism there that you're trying to emulate some of the behaviors of the Prophet. Okay, that's kind of nice. But that's an easy start to the meal then.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you pointed out that I guess if you were not in Boone, if you were home, or if you were in Egypt, the extended family would gather at the end of the day. So once again, the feast is bringing us the family back together again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's not just the family too, it's also your neighbors. For example, if you made a really big feast or a really special meal, course meal, people sometimes like to share their meals with their neighbors. Usually it is a very special time, because not just because you're gathering, but as well everybody has this shared mission, and they have fulfilled it.
Yes. So it's a reinforcement of the values of the community.
Okay.
And the beliefs of the community. All right, so we have our dates. I have our dates and milk. Then what? A big meal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's a feast.
Yeah.
Okay. Any particular foods that are usually included?
There are a lot of popular ones. But of course, it depends on each family's economic status.
Yeah.
But a lot of popular food would be the duali, or the grape leaves.
Stuffed grape.
Yeah.
Grape leaves. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The stuffed with grape leaves stuffed with a rice recipe.
Right. Yep.
The usual chicken. Meats. My favorite personally is mulukhaya, which is made out of mallow leaves, and you kind of cut it and cook it with chicken broth, and eat it with some rice.
This is soup.
Yeah.
And what kind of leaves?
It's called mallow leaves.
Mallow leaves.
It's very hard to find.
Okay.
Yeah. There are ancient traditions when cooking even the mallow leaves. When you kind of put it with the chicken broth, you have to gasp.
You gasped.
Yeah.
That's a ritual. Is that a family ritual, or is that
specific to ancient Egypt?
Okay, ancient Egypt.
Yeah,
All right, that's good.
So you put it in, and you're like,
oh, really?
It's supposed to give it the actual taste.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I like that. Now, you were telling me that sweets are important.
Exactly.
Yeah, desserts.
Definitely during Eid.
And Eid is the end of Ramadan, right? That's the feast that Eid al-Fitr, right? So during that feast at the end of Ramadan, tell me about the sweets and what they symbolize. And here's a nice little poster.
I got the lantern this year.
You have the lantern here. So so you decorated it.
Yeah, my mom sent it.
I bet she's proud of you for doing that. Yeah. So sweets. Tell me about the sweets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a day before Eid, usually nobody really sleeps because they are waiting for Eid, and basically like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And the tradition is the family would all bake cookies together. Some families now just buy already made ones from the store. But to instill tradition and those warm gathering moments, we would usually bake cookies, and I'm sure those cookies are in other countries in the world, but I know that an ancient Egyptian tradition was to bake those cookies, and we call them kahk. And it's kind of shaped as a sun disk. And so there's the usual cookie with some ridges at the end. And you can stuff it with dates. You can stuff it with other things, with nuts. And there's definitely powdered sugar on the top of those cookies. There are other cookies that you should definitely try one day. There's ghorayeba. And then there are other ones, the other desserts that are not cookies, such as balh al-sham, which is very sweet, and very sweet, and zalabia. Really, there's a lot of desserts that are very specific for the holidays.
I can tell by your facial expressions that you're having pleasant memories about baking cookies with family and sharing them at the end of Ramadan, and kind of nostalgic for some of those celebrations. Yeah. So Eid is a very special time. It ends the month of Ramadan. Are there any other kind of rituals that go along with Eid at the end of Ramadan?
There's a lot. So in the morning, you would pray Eid.
Right.
And then you kind of it's an extended family gathering. So it's everyone in your family, and usually you would also do fireworks. Was my personal favorite.
Yeah. It keeps coming back, doesn't it, that the connection here between food and religion and family and cultural identity, it's all kind of interwoven. And I'm sure some of these practices vary from family to family, but it's really nice the way food brings us together in community.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you about this, and I hope that very soon you get to rejoin your family after graduation, and maybe you can make some cookies, even though Ramadan's passed now.
It's okay.
Yeah. And from now on, when I make soup, I'm going to gasp for the chicken broth.
I'll make it better.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Well, that's it for Religion and Life for this week. I hope you'll join us again on App TV next time as we continue to explore the relationship between religion and culture and spirituality and society. Until then, this is Ozzie Ostwald.